The extramarital affair, or an affair which occurs in any committed, intimate relationship,
Smile, you're Mr. Smiley.
ranks as one of the most traumatic events in the lives of a couple.
This is my...
Her husband.
So how and why does it happen, and how do we deal with it?
You are so busted.
The ultimate answer and solution is given by an old theory, rediscovered in the beginning of the 20th century by one of Tavistock Institute co-founders, Kurt Lewin. For you to understand who and what size of a figure Kurt Lewin was, you need to know that he created a plan of how to end World War II. By the year 1944, the war fulfilled most of its objectives, but the Nazis weren't willing to stop by any means. Kurt Lewin did not only create a plan, but the plan was accepted and realized by the Allied Forces government, which basically puts Lewin and his colleagues on the very top of the social hierarchy. The plan was a relentless bombardment of German civilians. And the plan worked out. By primitive and profane logic, bombarding civilians and demolishing one city which has no military objects in it would not damage the army at all and just make it angrier. But no, the Nazi army felt defeated and had no moral power to continue their pushes. Let's skip the ethical aspects of it for now and focus on technical aspects of group behavior theory. The steps of how a lovely relationship of man and woman turn into a parade of suffering and misery are perfectly depicted in these famous award-winning films. It's okay if you never saw them. Every scene is self-explanatory. Rumors spread that a woman thrives on a good man, and from the other side, it's true that most of the men prefer socially active women over a single socially awkward one. Psychoanalytic and social historical studies say that a man and woman seek relations for different reasons. Turns out sustainable relations or marriage gives women who are addicted to pleasure an opportunity to attract and mate with more men than if she were single. And many women are more than willing to use this opportunity. People say that forbidden fruit is sweet, but that does not explain anything. The thing is, men and women seek relations for different reasons. Centuries of, as some people say, women being oppressed and ignored left men absolutely ignorant about women's motivation. As soon as a woman gets into sustainable relations, she starts to look for an affair. Denying that and labeling women with logo-phallocentric models like their motive is building a family, etc., which is proven by numerous studies to be a chauvinist construct, is straight sexism, especially when there are tons of examples. However, finding a lover, even a trashy one, is not the easiest task. The paradoxical step is needed. Boyfriend or husband, which are figuratively the same things, must assist. This is exactly what the husband in American Beauty does.
Oh, that's Buddy. Buddy!
Hi.
Hi! Good to see you again.
It's so good to see you too, Catherine.
Carolyn.
Oh, Carol.
As we can see here, the wife on her own, without the husband assistant, tries to impress her potential lover, but he pays no attention. She does not stand out from the crowd for him. But everything changes when her husband joins.
My husband, Lester.
I'll be whatever you want me to be.
Well, okay.
Now she can spread her legs and play the ape with him.
We have a very healthy relationship.
I see.
Call my secretary, have her schedule a lunch.
That was exactly what I needed.
These mechanics are widely common. Writers who were able to catch and depict such subliminal mechanics make literary classics, film adaptations become masterpieces. The best of the best are analyzed in our channel, so make sure to subscribe now. This husband-assist seduction mechanic can also be found in French classic Flaubert's Madame Bovary. The story is typical: the husband, Charles, the wife, Emma, plus her lovers. In both cases, the husband did assist. Later in the story, Emma exposes herself in front of others as a sleaze, and instead of starting her personal development, she prefers to commit suicide with the use of rat poison.
No! Don't! You say one word. If you make one sound, I shall say that you gave it to me by mistake. Say one word, just break one.
Her husband dies soon afterward, allegedly for no reason other than sorrow. There are many film adaptations of Madame Bovary, but 1949 is the most realistic and close to the source. Here, the husband is mounting her first lover on her.
I want to dance with my wife.
Here, he is mounting her second lover on her.
I only know I'm the happiest. You should be happy.
It's exactly the same reason why some women just spam their Instagram and Facebook accounts with photos together with their new boyfriend or husband. There is absolutely no point to create such photos other than to signalize to potential lovers. The argument that they just try to capture a valuable moment by taking a picture is invalid, because usually a poster never reviews her own photos. Instead, she creates new ones to make sure she and her boyfriend's faces stay on the top of the feed. Here is her bridal. The same situation as with her subsequent lovers. The husband has paid attention to her, in this case married her, and the men around her become active. No one was interested in her without her husband. No one wanted her. But after the husband has appeared, they start to crowd around her. They even tore down her dress. A brilliant detail is that the ones who started to harass her are socially lower and less dignified than her husband. A dog never mounts an unwilling bitch principle is not enough for adultery. So how does a husband manage to attract socially lower and less dignified lovers to his wife? A situation where a lover loses his interest in another man's wife explains it. It is perfectly shown in American Beauty.
I think we deserve a little junk food after the workout we had this morning.
While in adultery, they were playing and strutting how interesting they are to each other.
Thank you, I'm flattered. Smile, you're at Mr. Smiley's.
We were just at a seminar. Buddy, this is my...
Her husband. Honey, it's okay. I want you to be happy.
But as soon as the lover faces her husband and sees that he is not annoying at all, sees that the husband doesn't treat her as a wife anymore, and is even happy that he became free of her,
Would you like smiley sauce with that?
the lover loses all interest in his wife momentarily. And the fact that her husband works at a fast food chain and has no respectable job anymore adds up to this process even more.
I'm sorry. I guess we should cool it for a while.
So it turns out that sex is not the reason for the affair as women try to din into our heads. It is true that there is a good amount of men who have sex as a motive in relationships. They are called average or good men. We will use the term groom or mule on them.
Please, will you marry me?
They can't get laid. They can't get laid even with promiscuous women. They are interested in sexual intercourse. Only this group of men has sex as a motive for relations. They think that by having sex, by having women, they become men. Earn phallus. Others, to the left and to the right of the scale, are not starving to get laid. They are overfed with sex offers. Left ones, so-called bad boys or players, have sex with a motive to make themselves feel cooler than those who are more valuable and more developed. Someone who they envy. Secretly envy. They accept adultery offers from another man's wife in an effort to recreate a situation from their childhood. The situation when, under mother's provocation, one did some crap to his father and was encouraged for that by mommy. That's an analytical fact, which was also confirmed by French anthropologist and ethnologist Claude Lévi-Strauss, whose work was key in the development of the theory of structuralism and structural anthropology. In his works, he showed that men were never really interested in women as if they were subjects, that a woman serves as an object of exchange between two men, as some sort of material value, that a woman holds any value only if she belongs to some man. Even though Levi-Strauss' works are highly reputable, can be and are being used in creating successful business models and models of social control, Meta Intent sees their limitations and needs to go beyond. From an analytical position, sexual contact with a woman for average men is a ticket to the men's world. A woman, for them, is disposable, something they utilize to put themselves higher by standing on top of it, something they utilize to put themselves on a higher standing. Of course, that tactic is wrong, not only because it disregards a woman, but also because it never works out for a man, as it was initially created by a spoiled source for its own advantage. At this moment, we will focus on one group of men: players, pickup artists, alpha males, bad boys, or extreme mommy's boys. Mommy's boys are active only while the other man plays the role of the husband, and as soon as the husband is absent, or he is no more the father from player's childhood situation, the player loses all interest in having sex with another man's woman. No surprise why this kind of men have a tendency of becoming gay the longer they follow this path, as it was said in our previous video. It's clearly seen that they are interested in some sort of sexual contact with other men through their wives. Perfectly shown in the award-winning House MD. Foreman loses his interest in Anita as soon as her husband is ready to divorce, or stops taking Anita seriously as a wife.
Are you not going to introduce us because we're married? Oh, no, wait, that's her.
She's a pharmaceutical rep, and this is a working breakfast.
In a restaurant that's nowhere near your home or the hospital.
Chris Christie recommends the pancakes.
Got House's phone. Deleted all photos of you and Anita.
I owe you.
An affair. Anita, she's fun, smart, not looking for anything serious. It's pretty perfect. Except for the annoying guilt about the husband. Lies she must be telling me.
But not guilty enough to stop seeing her.
I told my husband about you.
What? Why?
He was saying that things had been better lately between him and I, that I was happier. I said that I was, and that you were the reason.
And he was okay with it?
Not initially. It was a pretty tough conversation. Neither of us is ready to give up on the marriage, and I am not ready to give up this. I told him because it was the right thing to do.
Right.
This doesn't change anything between us.
It sort of does for me.
You want to stop seeing each other?
No. I was thinking, maybe you could tell your husband that we did.
And then go back to sneaking around behind his back.
Yes.
Why would you want to do that?
I don't know. This just feels wrong. She broke it off. It's for the best. Not really an affair guy after all.
Sure you are, buddy. Just lost interest once it stopped being an affair.
That's why you're relieved.
But don't worry, it's not going to end here. Just have to get your adrenaline fixed somewhere else.
Exactly the same happened with Emma and Charles. While Emma was single, she was not interesting for players. But after the wedding with a doctor, the crowd of country yard machos just can't stand away. A crowd of people who are socially and spiritually at the lower level than a mediocre country doctor. It is well known that where there is one, there's sure to be another. The meta-intent follower should not fall for the popular misconception of social value. People have blunt conceptions of social value. They choose money as a criterion.
Money.
For example, they will say that the Baron in the award-winning Cabaret socially more valuable than a poor PhD student from England that works on his dissertation, just because Baron has a ton of cash, castle, and a big automobile. However, it is the Baron who started to act in an effort to screw the student's life. And of course, he does it by peacocking in front of her.
Max really knows how to corrupt a girl.
I try.
Not only did I get this glorious pelt, I got perfume, I got silk stockings.
And you got that funny... I'm afraid I had no time to have it wrapped. What on earth makes you think I'd accept that? To give me pleasure?
Max loves buying things. Darling, isn't that beautiful?
Here is how they met.
Vache.
Entschuldigen Sie mal, Frau, wenn ich glaube, das gehört Ihnen.
Huh?
All right. I think you dropped this.
The man's shirt appears in screen deliberately. The director of the film shows to meta-intent viewers that the Baron might have seen this shirt on the student earlier, and now attempts to impress his alleged woman. There is no way that the Baron has found her interesting on his own, as this lowbrow dancer might think herself. So, the true social value is determined by one's spiritual value. The PhD student is more valuable than the Baron. No need to say the Baron who got all his cash and castle by inheritance. It is the Baron who in front of the student starts to feel as a boy who clunked his pants. It is the Baron who languishes from inferiority complex and feels the need for a mommy. A mommy that will demonstrate to him how valuable he is, how great he is, demonstrated to him by allowing him, for example, to spend an hour in bed with her. In ancient tradition, the one who gave names to the star constellations and carried its knowledge to present days called this psychotype Capricorn. Please note the terms we are using have nothing to do with the zodiac. In Cabaret, it is clearly shown that the Baron had a thing not for the woman, but for the student that was around her, which in turn chose her because she works in Cabaret. And Cabaret is a perfect place to find and study a specific psychotype of imperious women, Sagittarians. The Baron has chosen her with motives to screw the student, while cowardly hiding behind the love mask. It is perfectly shown that the student knows who lives in this hotel, and made his way to this place deliberately.
I was told there might be a room to rent here. Not too expensive, I hope.
It is shown that he is basically in an ethnographic expedition. He had to travel to Germany in order to learn different types of women, where they are bolder and gathered in one place, in Cabaret. It was not like there were no better places to go study women, but because of late 30th Germany, the newly founded Third Reich was an exceptional cultural phenomenon, where things were shifting and it was easier to spot something you did not notice before. And the Cabaret is not an ordinary recreation place. As you may notice, there are too many ugly girls dancing on the scene. The Cabaret's manager could easily find prettier and younger girls, literally in one click, but he picked another kind of girl.
Each and every one a virgin.
One who are Sagittarius in grain. You become what you see, and when Sagittarians spend time together, they become more and more bold as a type.
You don't believe me? Well, do not take my word for it. Go ahead.
The kind of performance is worth it to pay for. A good opportunity for gentlemen and philosophers to see the flip side of Madonna. That is exactly what the student was examining while spending time with her. It should be clear that players have their own continuum. The Baron, a molester, is closer to the left side, where the real estate seller from American Beauty is to the right side, just a mediocre pickup artist. Most, if not all, women know this Capricorn motive of sexual activity, and they do exploit it. For example, a woman goes to the bar and takes a picture of her husband and kids with her, and when she finds her potential sex partner, she allegedly by accident shows this picture to him, lies about her husband's success and portrays him as being highly socially valuable. In other words, she somehow implies her man to be more valuable than the potential sex partner she tries to pick up. Usually, it is enough for some filthy one-night stand. Of course, a man does not always want to assist his spouse in adultery. Any at least slightly sane man understands that a lover from a lower social level brings disadvantage to him. The husband may gain profit only if his wife's lover is at a higher social level than he is. You become what you see, and if the lover is more socially valuable, the wife will grow up, and so the husband will too. His career will go up. But this scenario is rare. If a lover is more miserable than the husband's career will go down. Let's see what we have in American Beauty and Madame Bovary.
Now listen to me. This is an important business function.
Do me a favor.
Sorry.
Would you just say whatever you want to say and spare me the propaganda?
All right. Act happy tonight.
I am happy, honey.
You're not?
Oh, well, miss, the only Marquis I ever met.
This could be a disaster, Emma. This is aristocracy.
In both cases, the husband assisted adultery. There is one common detail. The husband feels like a fish out of water. He clearly does not want to go to the party, but his wife pulls him to it. In both cases, they had nothing to do other than getting drunk.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I need a drink.
If one is drunk, he is away with the berries. His rational activity stops and he is driven by childish reflexes.
Put a little more in there, cowboy.
Reflexes that were set by his mother, and if the mother used her kids in the hunt on Capricorns, and if there was no one to explain the anatomy of the affair and the theory of civil war, the kids, after becoming adult, will assist his woman in her hunt as a matter of course. That means if a woman begs her man to go somewhere he does not want to go, it means only one thing: she is on the hunt. The practice shows that an average man does not understand why his woman wants him to be around, and usually an appellation to love,
Are you saying we can't go?
or to the confidence that he gives her is enough to trick him to go to some shopping mall or some party.
The one chance in my life? The only... What are you doing to me? Are you showing me this and then saying that we can't go?
No, Emma. No, I'm not.
Oh, you fool. You wonderful fool. I love you.
But what kind of love is that if she takes him to some useless place that he does not like? This kind of attitude should be taken seriously, immediately. In just relations, one should not let his woman lie, hunt, and inflict damage to one's path and career with her relations to low-level men. It's needed to say that a woman might not cheat immediately at the shopping mall behind her partner's back after some eye contact with a stranger. This is a pretty common fantasy, and people actually do such things. Just ask any mall security guy.
You villain. So now you want to risk my reputation in public places.
For many women, eye contact flirting is already an enjoyment. She will enjoy it during shopping and later at home, in the bathroom during her masturbation. Full of fantasies, full of secrets, an inadequate partner is useless and even hazardous. In everyday life, a lover is always more miserable than a cuckolded husband. If one does not understand the motives for why lovers serve another man's unfaithful wife, he may become emotionally disturbed. For example, the emotional disturbance that Dr. Charles had killed him. His death is not shown in most Madame Bovary film adaptations, not shown for a commercial reason in order not to upset viewers prior to an advertisement block. But in the masterpiece book of Gustave Flaubert, his death is described in detail. He died in a matter of days from a heart attack. One of the reasons why Charles died was his misunderstanding of the shameful secret that his wife's lovers shared, that they are more miserable than Charles. Charles is a regular man, psychotype of the provider, martyr, inclined to fantasies. Once that kind of guy finds out that his woman has an affair, he usually starts to fantasize that her lover is somehow superior to him, that her lover has some secret advantages that made his wife prefer him, even if it was just for a short time affair. That is not correct. That is a misunderstanding of the paradox, that a wife despises her lovers even harder than she despises her own husband, but she still spreads her legs for them. Misunderstanding is unnatural for human beings. A misunderstanding causes a depression which is so unnatural that it is fraught with death. That means that any cheating woman who does not want to become a widow must explain to her man how miserable she is in her adultery, the truth that she has no control over her lover, and that he may leave her at any time when her husband's attitude changes towards her. If she fails to explain it, there is a great chance that she will become a widow and won't be interesting for any man at all. At the national level, all those lovers, players, jackasses, alpha males, in fact, are part of the fifth column. The fifth column stays afloat only because the public does not understand how the fifth column works. Why any nation, any social formation, any social order have a layer of people aggressively hostile towards the national course. The term mommy's boy, despite being vulgar, describes them perfectly. Ancient tradition depicted this psychotype as Capricorn, a goat. Contemporary culture still subconsciously remembers it. Now they are called as jackasses and bullies. Fun fact that the word bully has various meanings besides the obvious ones. There are lover and protector of a prostitute. One of their biggest secrets is that they all live in an effort to please some old vicious woman, some harridan. Ancient scheme greatly describes dynamics between the four psychotypes, which any group of three and larger tend to recreate. Throughout the time and different cultures, these figures changed their names numerous times, but the figure of harridan is always the head of all jackasses. No need to say that any old harridan is significantly more stupid and vicious than a younger woman. The old one has more vileness and betrayed others behind their back more often than a younger one, which made her grow stupid by turning more sectors of life upside down. The fact that bullies live in an effort to please a harridan, their mother, means that if you want to change bullies, you need to change harridans first. Let's say if you want goats to stop their marauding war, like the one which Hitler's army started, there is not much sense to use brute force on them. Nothing will change, because they are not the ones who make decisions. It doesn't matter how many of them you will kill, they will keep going. In order to end a marauding war, it is needed to stop their mothers who wants the war. It's needed to make old harridans stop dreaming about the war. That is exactly what was performed at the final part of the World War II.
There are a lot of people who say that bombing can never win a war. Well, my answer to that is that it has never been tried yet, and we shall see.
This strategy is forgotten nowadays, but in fact it is simple and effective. Hitler's Germany was a democratic country. Hitler was elected by free and fair democratic elections. All democratic countries are ruled by harridans, just because there are many of them in any country. Harridans and their subordinates, the coward husband and son, the bully, Capricorn, is the absolute majority of population and electorate. It is always like that. A harridan enjoys war and violence, not just because they are vicious, that does not really explain much, but because all persons who are capable to think rationally are mobilized to the army. They leave their houses and are kept busy so they won't irritate them with their thought process, and dumb bullies are happy to serve them. While millions of men were dying all over Europe, old harridans felt pretty comfortable at home.
Stars like Ilse Werner are there to keep morale high.
The only thing that disrupted their comfort was the occasional bombardments made by England, USA, and Soviet aviation. So most of them decided to move to the city that, by common sense, would not be bombarded as the city has zero military targets. But they were unlucky with that strategy. since there was a man who figured them out.
Command's list of targets damaged or destroyed. One big city is missing. Dresden.
It was planned to keep the city untouched, to make it attractive and wait until the old Herodins gathered there. Then they hit as hard as needed to make them cease to want war. Cease to want war in all Germany. The most massive bombardment in the history of World War II was an extremely successful operation. Yes, American, British, and Soviet aviation were bombarding civilians, but those civilians were the true core of Nazi aggression. Those civilians were inducing ambition to Nazi bullies. The fifth column calls that day a tragedy, but the city demolishing, the death of 35,000 Herodins and their associates saved the lives of thousands of millions of Soviet, European, American, and even German soldiers that were in the zone of conflict. Understanding bullies as puppets of their mommies is very important not only because it brings sense to life, but also helps to prevail in civil conflicts. Once the described mechanisms are understood, enemies become a pushover and a new path opens.